Welcome back, I'm George, and this is the complete review of the Samsung Galaxy S24. In this video, we're going to take a complete look both inside and out, including app launching tests, speed test, battery test, gaming test, and of course, a very comprehensive look at the cameras. If there's anything specific you want to know or learn about the S24, most likely you will find it in this video. But anyways, that being said, let's begin by talking about pricing and availability. Right now, if you want to go get the S24 at a normal store like Amazon, you will find it in 4 different colors. Yellow, very light gray, which is the one that I have right here, is a very, very light shade of gray, black or dark gray, and purple, with 128 and 256 gigabytes of storage. If you're very, very lucky, you could technically also find it at 512 gigabytes, but that version is almost always out of stock. You can find it with 8 and 12 gigabytes of RAM, although the most common version has 8. Like with 512 gigs of storage, it is very hard to find 12 gigabytes of RAM available at a normal store. But for that, you can always go to the official Samsung store, where you find 3 exclusive colors, which are blue, green, and orange. And also you have every storage and every RAM available, no matter your country or the moment you go to the store. But that being said though, I would heavily recommend you go get the phone on Amazon, because even though they don't have as many options, as much availability, as much variety of colors and options, they do usually have the best prices and the best customer service for, if you want to ship the phone back, return it, or whatever happens with the device. Amazon is going to give you both the best price and the best service. So yeah, if you don't want a very specific version with a very specific storage, I would recommend you get it on Amazon. There is a link down below in the description, so if at the end of the video you want to take a look, you can go take a look. But anyways, that being said, let's move on by talking a little bit about the exterior design, which, as you can see, is not that different from the one we saw last year with the S23. The back is almost identical. The front, as you can see, is also almost identical. The only difference is that the side bezels are now completely flat, as opposed to the slightly curved edges on the S23. As you can see, they look pretty similar to the ones we can see on the iPhone 13s and 14s. The only difference is that here on the back, they have a slight curvature to make it a little bit more ergonomic. And let me tell you, it makes a very big difference. I have an iPhone 14 Pro here, which is completely flat. There's no curvature, and it's noticeably less ergonomical when it comes to like the feeling in your hand. It may sound like a stupid thing because it's very subtle, but it does make a big difference. This phone, even though it doesn't look like it, it's pretty ergonomical. It's easy to use, and it doesn't become uncomfortable after a long time, which is the case with those iPhone 14s and 13s. One of the biggest changes this year is the front frame, because even though it retains the same size as last year, we have a slightly bigger display at 6.2 inches, and that's because we now have the slimmest bezels ever on a smartphone. This applies to every smartphone, not only Samsung phones. So this is a world record for slimmest smartphone bezel. They are, of course, symmetrical. They look very good, very premium. But as I said, it's something you have to appreciate in person, how futuristic it looks because of these very slim frames. On the bottom, we can find 2 antennas for wireless connections, a very big speaker hole, which is a new thing. On the past, we had individual speaker holes, which technically were worse for audio performance. This is better. This is going to make for better sound. We have a USB-C port, we have a microphone, and we have the SIM ejection tool. On the left side, we have absolutely nothing beyond the 2 antenna bands. At the top is almost more of the same story. We just have 1 antenna band and 2 microphones for stereo audio. And on the right side, we have another antenna band, the volume buttons up and down, and the power on and off button, plus multifunction, because this button is not only good for turning the phone on and off, as you can see, it is also good for activating anything you want. In my case, I have it set to Samsung Wallet, but you can set it to whatever you want. You can turn on the camera, you can activate Twitter, Spotify, WhatsApp, whatever you want. When it comes to dimension, it has 5.79 inches by 2.78 inches by 0.3 inches. It's a very slim phone. And the weight is 168 grams or 5.89 ounces. Of course, it being a flagship top-tier phone, it has water and dust resistance IP68 for up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. If you have any accidents in the pool or in the bathroom, you're completely covered. Nothing's gonna happen most likely. But I do recommend you don't take showers with the phone. That's what a lot of people do when they realize their phone is water resistant. They just shower with it to play music. That's kind of dangerous because warm water combined with the chemicals on your shampoo and gel tend to corrode the water seal that's on the phone that protects it against water. So maybe that's not going to be an issue in the first couple weeks, but maybe 6 months in, that all that corrosion combined over time ends up getting rid of the water protecting seal and you lose the water resistance, and all of a sudden water starts getting into your phone and you break it. So be careful. You can even make videos underwater in your pool if you want to from time to time, but be careful with showering with the phone. Be wary of warm water and chemicals on your whatever chemicals there are. As you saw earlier in the design section, we have a USB-C port, but this is no normal USB-C port. It has USB 3.0 speeds, so we can connect it to 8K monitors, transfer data at very high speeds, and most importantly, we have access to Samsung DeX. This is a very special feature that's only available on Samsung phones, and that lets you turn your phone into a full-blown desktop computer. As you can see in the images, it has the same interface. You can connect mouse and keyboard, you can play games, you can use apps, you can browse the web, use your email, watch videos, watch Netflix. You can do pretty much every normal thing you would do on your computer. The only disadvantage it has is that it runs on Android. So you can only use Android games and Android apps as opposed to Windows games and apps, which tend to be a little bit more advanced. So if you're, a coder and you need a specific software, you probably are not going to find it using Samsung DeX. But for casual users, which is the majority of people who maybe just want to use Word, Excel, browse the web, use Gmail, for those people, this is perfect because it gives you a full-blown desktop experience for free. I didn't mention it earlier, but this doesn't have any additional costs. You don't have to enable it. You don't have to pay any subscription. You just have to connect your phone with the USB-C port to any display and it automatically turns on. Of course, if you enable it in the settings, but it is very impressive. It even has an option to do it wirelessly, so you don't have to connect the phone with a wire, but that one has a little bit of lag and I don't really recommend it. It's much better to connect it through cable and have a true, real desktop experience. Then, when it comes to speakers and microphones, this phone is loaded up to the brims. As you can see, we have a new speaker set on the bottom, which is technically going to be a little bit better than the one on the S23. We have, of course, the stereo speaker at the top, although you can probably not see it. It's very, very slim. And then we have a bunch of microphones. We have one microphone at the bottom here, and then we have two at the top. So we have stereo audio, both for microphones and speakers. As always, let's begin by doing a stereo audio test. So I'm going to run this song using both the bottom speaker and the top speaker so you can see the differences in speed and loudness. Of course, to find out how good the stereo audio is. Spoiler, it is very good. And then we're going to play some other songs from different genres to see how good the speakers do in different scenarios. Let's begin. This is the bottom speaker. Top speaker. Bottom speaker. Top speaker. Okay, that was very interesting. As you saw, even with the top speaker being very, very slim, it almost is as loud as the bottom speaker, making it a true or almost true 99% true stereo audio experience. Let's move on with hip hop, a very challenging genre for speakers, especially on phones.
No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay and left.
Oh, and I completely forgot, I'm also going to do a microphone test. So I'm going to record a small clip on the camera, and then I'm going to play that clip to the microphone, the professional microphone I'm using to record this video, so you can see how good the microphones on the phone are at capturing my voice. Of course, I can't do this with live music because I'm not in a rock band or anything, so I don't have instruments around, but I can do it with my voice, which is realistically what most people are going to do with the microphones of their phone. I completely forgot, I'm also going to do a microphone test. So I'm going to record a small clip on the camera, and then I'm going to play that clip to the microphone, the professional microphone I'm using to record this video, so you can see how good the microphones on the phone are at capturing my voice. Of course, I can't do this with live music because I'm not in a rock band or anything, so I don't have instruments. Okay, so those were hip hop and classic music. Very, very good sounding in my opinion. Of course, that sound comes from YouTube and it's very compressed, so it's going to sound a little bit better if you listen to it on Spotify or on any other audio platform, but still very, very good. When it comes to the sound settings, of course, there's a lot of different options. I'm not going to go through all of them because most of them are probably in your phone already. There's a couple of very interesting things I found. First off, we can choose the vibration type for like calls, notifications, and system. For example, you're not gonna see it on camera, of course, because it's more like a feeling thing, but the feeling of spring is very different from the feeling of dubstep, and it's very different from the feeling of ripple, which are different vibration types. This is a stupid thing, but it's very cool because, for example, a spring feels very satisfying to the hand, so every time I get a call or a notification, I get a satisfying feeling instead of an annoying feeling, which is the case with a lot of vibrations on phones. We can, of course, choose the vibration intensity and sound intensity for everything on the phone. So we can have a different vibration intensity for calls than we have for notifications, than we have for system. This is very handy. And of course, my favorite feature on Android phones is the equalizer. If we go, sorry, I didn't tell you. If we go to sound quality and effects and then we click on equalizer, we can access a specific custom setting to tweak the audio so it sounds better for different sound genres. For example, if we want to listen to classic music, we can toggle classic, and the phone is going to change its internal settings so it sounds best when playing classic music. And this happens with jazz, rock, pop, normal, which is sort of like a basic mode for everything. What's kind of lame from Samsung is that they didn't let you create presets, because if you're not going to give me all the options like hip hop or podcast or everything else, at least let me custom do the thing for the specific thing that I want and then save it as a preset so I can quickly toggle it. If you want, for example, to listen to a podcast and want to optimize the audio for a podcast, you have to come to custom and tweak it every single time, which is a little lame in my opinion, but hey, at least you have the option for pretty much every music genre. Of course, it being a top tier phone, it has Dolby Atmos and Atmos for gaming, which of course are going to enhance the experience, the audio experience, if you have a game compatible with Dolby Atmos. And then we have access to the separate sound app, which is surprisingly convenient. If you want to play a song or a specific sound on one speaker without having to send all of the sounds from your phone to that speaker, you can do so. So if you're in a party and you want to, wire your phone to the speaker without it necessarily reproducing everything on your phone, you can just send the music without sending everything else. Very convenient. Moving on, of course, we have to talk about the display, which may not be the best of the best. Of course, the S24 Ultra takes the crown for the best display, probably of 2024. But the normal, smaller S24 is damn near close. It is a very good, very, very good display. First off, we have a slightly bigger size as opposed to last year. We have a 6.2-inch display, but probably the most impressive thing about this phone is the aspect ratio. As you can see, it has very slim and symmetrical bezels all around the phone that make up only 9.1% of the device, meaning 90.9% of the entire front of the phone is display. This is a world record. There's no other phone with such good proportions display body ratio, so to say. And this is going to make for, of course, a very small and compact phone, but also retaining a relatively large display. Perfect for all of you who want to, go work out with their phones in their pockets, go do activities that maybe require not having anything bulky in your pockets, but at the same time, having a relatively big phone with which you can watch videos, play games, watch TikTok comfortably at home. More specifically, it is a LTPO AMOLED display, which means it can dynamically vary the refresh rate of the device. So if we go to motion smoothness, it's not going to say 120 Hertz or 60 Hertz. It says adaptive, which goes from, I think it's 10 or 20 FPS all the way up to 120. And then you just have the standard mode, which is plain simple 60 FPS. The good thing about it being LTPO is that because it's not always at 120 FPS, we can take advantage of the super smooth motion with 120 FPS, but at the same time saving battery life, because if we're not doing anything that requires smooth motion, it is going to go all the way down to 10 or 20, I don't remember what it was, and save more battery than it would if it was at 60 FPS. So theoretically, on paper, the battery savings are going to be the same whether you are in adaptive or standard, and that's the beauty of LTPO. Also, as I said, it has an AMOLED display, which is nothing more, nothing less than a Samsung OLED display, which is not a bad thing. Samsung makes pretty much all the displays from all the phones, including the iPhones right now, so they are the best display manufacturers, and of course, they put the best displays they can make on their phones to have an advantage. So you're always going to find the best of the best in display quality, display calibration, display technology on Samsung phones. The resolution is 1080 by 2340 pixels, so a little bit over 1080p with a 416 ppi, which it's pretty good. I think it's on the ballpark of what you can expect for a 6.1, 6.2 inch device, and I think it's perfect because with this screen size, you would not notice any improvement in display resolution, but you get to save battery life because of the lower, technically, it's still a very high resolution, but lower resolution than what you would find, for example, on a S24 Ultra. What's very interesting, though, is that I couldn't find any setting to change the resolution. It's very weird because usually you would have the option to go from 1080 to 720p, or in the case of the S24 Ultra, 1440, 1080, and 720. In this case, I just don't see the setting. When it comes to the exterior glass, we have Gorilla Glass Victus 2, which is almost the best of the best. It is what most top-tier phones use nowadays. The only reason it's not the best of the best is that Gorilla Glass has launched a slightly better display technology called Gorilla Glass Armor, which is the one on the S24 Ultra. That is the only reason why it doesn't have the best of the best. But to be fair, Gorilla Glass Armor is only available in a couple phones. Every other high-end device has Victus 2, so yeah, and they're both pretty much identical. The only difference is the anti-reflective coating on the S24 Ultra, but when it comes to resistance to scratches, resistance to break or drops, they're both pretty much identical. But anyways, that being said, it is time for the display quality test. So I'm going to launch a 4K video on YouTube. Let's make sure it is at maximum resolution. There it is, 4K 60 FPS. I'm going to play it with the lights on first so you can see how it works with light interference, and then I'm going to play it with the lights off so you can take a look at the full capacity of the panel without any light interference, just the pure panel quality, so to say. And then we'll take a look at some display settings. Here we go. Okay, what do you guys think? In my opinion, at least, it is one of the best panels available right now. I couldn't tell you if it is a little bit better or a little bit worse than the one we can find on the iPhone. I think technically it is the same technology, the same quality. The only difference is the panel calibration. But what I can tell you for sure is that it is one of the best panels and that you're gonna have no issues with it. But anyways, let's move on to the settings. I'm not gonna show you every toggle because a lot of these things are, very old. You probably have them in your current phone, but I'm going to show you two new things that were not available before. The first one is adaptive color tone, which is something very similar to True Tone on the iPhone. If we enable it, it is going to adjust the temperature of the colors on the display to the temperature of the colors in the environment. So in this case, for example, I have a little warmer colors or tones in my room. So if I enable it, the display is going to look a little warmer. If I disable it, as you can see, it turns a little colder. Of course, this is not revolutionary. We've seen it before. We could actually toggle it, I think, manually if we went to the screen mode. There it is. We could actually toggle the color temperature manually for a long time. But the cool thing about this is that it does it automatically. We don't have to be thinking about it. The phone is going to detect the temperature of the colors of your environment and adjust the display, which is theoretically going to make it a little bit more comfortable to use. Something kind of similar to Eye Comfort Shield, which was actually meant only to make the display look warmer, so it didn't work the opposite way. But now we actually have both options. This is the cool thing about Android phones, is that they give you as much customization as you want. They didn't disable Eye Comfort Shield for those of you who wanted just to make the display warmer all the time. And now we have adaptive, which is going to make it warmer or cooler depending on the environment. But anyways, that being said, let's move on to security and privacy. Just like last year, we have two big, very functional unlocking mechanisms. The first one is the fingerprint sensor, which is very, very fast and very reliable. Let me show you how fast it is. You don't even have to turn on the display for it to work. You can just tap around the area where the sensor is, and it's going to automatically unlock the phone. It's very fast, it's very reliable, and the surprising thing about it is that because it's ultrasonic, it doesn't require to push light out of the display, so it doesn't kind of bother you at night, and it's instantaneous. Look, you just have to tap for like 0.5 seconds and it automatically unlocks the phone. It is very, very impressive. What I would recommend you at least be careful with is with the face recognition system. Because although it is fine and it works when there's good lighting conditions, it doesn't really work at all lighting conditions. It really depends on how good the camera is working. And since the selfie camera is pretty small, if you're in a low light situation at night or about to go to bed with the lights off, it is not going to work. And this is not only bad for, convenience when you're using it, it is also bad for security. This is not a very safe mechanism. Some people could actually create masks of your face and easily fool the phone to unlock. So if you are keeping sensitive information on the phone, I would heavily suggest you only use the fingerprint mechanism or the fingerprint sensor. This one's very safe. This one's very secure. And of course, like always on the security and privacy settings, we have a bunch of suggestions to keep the phone safe against, bad intentions from other people. In this case, I think it is very nice that Samsung gives you sort of this one page where you can see if there's anything you can do to improve security. I heavily suggest when you first get the phone actually to go to this page and try to tap all of the settings to have everything on green, because that is going to give you some extra peace of mind that then you can just go to the internet, download apps, do whatever you want, go to web pages with no stress, no fear. The phone is properly protected, so you can do whatever you want. The phone is not going to get any malware, bad software. You're not going to get, hackers in your phone, whatever it is. If the phone's properly protected, if there's no suggestions left, you're safe. When it comes to performance, the S24 has the best of the best and almost the best of the best, depending on where you live. Because this phone comes with the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 processor, which is the best of the best right now for Android, if you live in Canada and the US. But if you are from Europe or from South America, unfortunately, once again, the phone is going to come included with the Exynos 2400 processor, which is a slightly less capable processor as opposed to the Snapdragon. This has happened for multiple years. People keep complaining Samsung don't sell two different versions of the same phone as if it was the same thing. But yes, I'm pretty sure a lot of you watching from America, the US, are not gonna have an issue because you get the Snapdragon version. But if you live in pretty much every other region on the planet like I do, you're gonna have to put up with the Exynos processor. As I said earlier, we get 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM, depending on the version of the phone. And we get the Adreno 750 GPU on every model. So at least when it comes to graphical performance, we all get the best of the best. Technically, if we just pay attention to the US version, these are the best specs you could put on a phone in 2024. And on top of that, the Snapdragon Gen 3 processor is optimized to take the most advantage of Samsung phones. So it's a special version of the processor that's going to work a little bit better than it does on other phones. So once again, it is a shame that Samsung didn't include it with every phone in every region. This is something that didn't happen with the Ultra version. The Ultra comes with a Snapdragon wherever you buy it. India, US, Europe, South America, it doesn't matter. They're all going to come with a Snapdragon. But for some reason, Samsung just wanted to give people the Exynos processor. I guess it's because it's their processor and they want to sell it as much as they can. But yeah, it's kind of a shame. But anyways, that being said, let's move on with the speed test. We're going to do a boot up test, app launching test, multitasking test, and then I'm going to show you the difference in technical speed on the Geekbench test between the Exynos processor and the Snapdragon Gen 3 processor. So 3, 2, 1, here we go. Let's begin the boot up test. It is going to be pretty fast. I mean, it's a brand new phone, and even having the Exynos 2400 processor, it is probably going to load up in, 15 seconds. It is almost showing there it is, the Android logo. So in a couple seconds, 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, I nailed it. That was probably 15, 16 seconds. Very, very fast. Almost as fast as it would be if it had the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3. But anyways, let's take every app off the multitasking so it's a fair speed test, app launching test, and here we go. Let's begin with the camera. Very, very fast. Let's begin with the weather. Very fast. Let's do YouTube. A little slower, but also very fast. Let's do Play Store. Immediate. Let's do Subway Surfers. This is a very casual game, so it should take absolutely no time. There it is. Calm down, please. No. Before we keep going, let's do the first multitasking test to make sure everything is still opened on the background. The camera took a little half second there to open. The weather remained open. There we go. YouTube remained open. Very nice. Play Store remained open. Very nice. Subway Surfers remained open. Very, very nice. I mean, to be expected, 8 gigabytes of RAM may not be the best of the best, but it's still very, very good. Now, what if we play 2 games? What if we open Asphalt 9 and Call of Duty on top of all these apps? That's when things are going to start getting interesting, because these 3D games take up a lot of RAM. So even with 8 gigabytes, maybe that's not going to be enough to keep everything opened in the background. We'll figure it out. So I'm very optimistic, because on the S24 Ultra with only 4 gigabytes more, we were able to open everything and have it remain open all the time. So maybe it's not going to be the case with the S24, but I hope at least half the apps remain open. So yeah, let's go. Let's begin with the camera, which has to unfortunately load up again. Let's do the weather. Had to load up again. YouTube, great. YouTube remained open. Let's do Play Store. Remained open. Great. Let's do Subway Surfers. Remained open. Very nice. Let's do Asphalt 9. Oh, great. It remained open. Very, very nice. And let's do, oh, sorry. I took one app off the multitasking. Let's do Call of Duty, and it remained open too. That was very nice. Not every app. I think only the camera had to sort of like boot up again. But it's for having 8 gigabytes of RAM on an Android phone, this is very, very nice. That's a very impressive roster of apps. 3 games, a couple basic apps. That's a lot. For those of you who are interested, these are the Geekbench 6 results, 1,400 points on the single core and 6,200 on the multi-core score, which is kind of disappointing, I have to say, comparing it to other similarly priced phones. Of course, it is a lot better than the Pixels, but it's a little bit worse than the iPhones. And if we compare it to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 version of the phone, it's even more disappointing. It has almost 1,000 points more in the single core test and almost 1,000 points more in the multi-core. Like, it's a very, very noticeable difference. I didn't notice that big of a difference in practical terms when doing the speed test on the S24 Ultra. You have a video in this channel, by the way, the same video you're watching, but for the S24 Ultra. But this is very, very impressive. Like, the technical numbers are very different. But anyways, let's move on to one of the most important categories on a phone, which is gaming. Games tend to be the most demanding apps you use on a phone, so if games work well on your phone, most likely every other app is going to work well on your phone. As you can see, Subway Surfers, as you probably expected, is working flawlessly on the S24. It's a very basic game, and as every other basic game, it's not going to have any issues with a flagship top-tier phone with one of the best processors on the market. Of course, I'm just showing you to, show you one casual game while I introduce gaming and while we confirm casual games look good on this phone, but there's not a lot of meat on this bone. Of course, casual 2D games were going to work well on this $900 device. So let's move on to a slightly more demanding challenge. Let's play Asphalt 9. In this case, we're going to play at ultra settings. As you can see, high quality, the maximum graphics available, because as I said, it's a top tier phone, so it should be able to handle high graphics. And well, as you can see, it is handling high graphics pretty well. Asphalt 9 is a relatively old game. It's been around for a couple years, and although it looks very impressive, any high-end phone nowadays should have no issues running this game at high settings. There's absolutely no point in running it at medium or low, because if it runs great on high, why play it at any lower setting? It looks best at high. As you can see, it's playing super smooth. I have to say though, the thing with this game is you don't have a lot of camera movement, so it's hard to see how fast the game is playing, how many FPS it is running at. But I can tell you by the animations, the explosions, and the way everything looks and feels, it's probably running between 60 and 120 FPS. I'm not really sure because, as I said, it's very hard to distinguish that in this game. But yeah, between 60 and 120 FPS. Let's move on to Call of Duty Mobile, another game that's been around for a couple of years. So again, we're going to start with the maximum possible settings. Very high graphic quality, maximum frame rate. And well, as you can see, the game is running pretty smooth. No surprises here. I mean, this phone I think launched in 2019, 2018. It's been a long time. The game is not super demanding graphically, and this is a top tier phone, so it should be able to run perfectly. I mean, the only games that have an issue playing this game at max settings right now are maybe low tier phones. I don't think those phones even have the option to go max settings, but any high-end phone, even the S22, S21, are going to be able to play it at high settings. The real challenge with these types of games is not really that they run good or not. They always run very smoothly. It's actually the temperature, but I'm actually pretty surprised here because I've been playing Asphalt 9 for a bit. I've been playing Call of Duty now for a bit, and the phone is not showing any signs of increasing the temperature at all, which is usually the case. I mean, not that it is going to burn in your pocket or anything or in your hands, but it usually does increase the temperature a little bit when you start playing. And in this case, maybe it's done it a little bit, but I'm very impressed. After Call of Duty, though, we're going to play Genshin Impact, which is a much more demanding game. That's when things are going to start getting interesting. But at least, as you can see, Call of Duty is running very smoothly, very nice, and it's not warming up at all. We're going to do a temperature check after this match is over to check if, how warm the phone actually is. But it doesn't feel like it at all. It probably is at room temperature, maybe a little higher. So yeah, very impressive. Let me launch a couple of these strikes, warp weapons. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I played Call of Duty. I don't know the names of any of these things. There's like this little airplane, toy airplane. There you go, buddy. And then another one of these to this guy that's about to kill me. No, oh my God. Why is everybody indoors when I'm throwing one of those? Let's do a quick temperature check on the S24. Okay, 37 degrees, not that bad. I mean, it's definitely not room temperature, as I said before, but it's pretty okay. 37 degrees is definitely doable. It only feels a little warm on this specific area, but if you tap on any other areas, you can see 34, 35. It's okay, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Considering other older siblings of the S24 have had much worse results, this is very impressive, very good. Anyways, forget what I just said, my friends. I have just loaded up Genshin Impact. I've not done anything here. I've been here for 30 seconds, and the phone has already warmed up considerably as opposed to when I was playing Call of Duty. Let me actually do a quick temperature check. 40 degrees just by loading the game up. That's pretty insane. I've not done anything yet. Anyways, let's begin by playing at medium settings. As you can see, 60 FPS, which very weirdly, the game tells me it's already overclocked at medium settings on an S24. That's pretty surprising considering, I mean, this game should be able to be handled properly by almost any phone at low, medium, high settings, depending on the price of the phone. This is pretty weird that at medium settings, we're already overclocked, theoretically. Performance is pretty okay. I'm not noticing any bugs, hiccups, issues, anything beyond temperature, which, as I said, is going to be the real issue with the S24. I mean, oh, that was a little bit of a lag there. It feels like it does pretty good beyond a couple frame drops here and there, but as I said, the real issue here is going to be the temperature. I'm noticing a temperature increase by the second. Like, I've been playing for like a minute now, and it's already noticeably warmer than it was when I started playing the game, which is even warmer than when I was playing Call of Duty, which is a relatively demanding 3D game. So yeah, I'm not really sure what it is about this game. Maybe it's because it's open world. There's a lot of elements. There's a lot of textures and high quality graphics. I don't know what it is, but it is not able to run smoothly and at cool temperatures on any phone right now. Like even the S24 Ultra, which I have right here. I've done the test in a previous video, and it became a warm mess like the S24. It's not, I don't even think it's about the processor being the Exynos version instead of the Snapdragon, because it happened, the same story with the S24 Ultra, which, as I said, has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 optimized for Samsung. And even then, warm mess. That being said, though, it is not unbearable. Like, it's warm, but it's fine. I mean, you definitely could have a better experience if it was at room temp, but it's not so warm you have to stop playing or your hands are going to start sweating. It's just a little bit uncomfortable. If you really don't want to deal with the heat, I suggest you buy an external controller to play the game more comfortably with better control over the character, and at the same time not have to touch the phone if it gets warm. So yeah, that's going to be a much better experience. If you use touch controls, I mean, I don't think there's any escape. As you saw earlier, we're playing at medium settings, so it's only going to get worse when we play high settings and ultra settings. Okay, let's do a quick temperature check for medium settings. 41, okay, it's not that bad, as I said, only a little bit warmer than it was before, but it's starting to get into that sort of like dangerous territory where it's starting to be a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, now let's do high settings, of course, at 60 FPS. I'm not really sure why it defaults to 30 all the time. Okay, feels pretty smooth. Surprisingly, it looks much better than medium settings. Like, there's higher resolution textures and everything looks better. There's better highlights, better shadows, better lighting, reflections, and all that stuff. But the game feels as smooth as it did at medium settings. I guess that's because the game could theoretically go over 60 FPS at medium. It's only that the game doesn't allow you to do so. So when you're playing high settings, you're technically playing the same frame rate, but that's because the game could go higher at medium, not because there's no penalty in the frame rate by going higher graphics. I'm pretty sure when we go ultra settings or max settings, it's going to start feeling a little bit laggier. But when it comes to temperature, which is, as I said earlier, the big deal in this gaming test, not necessarily the graphics or the way it feels and looks, it's feeling almost identical, I have to say. I mean, I've only been playing for a couple seconds. Maybe if I was actually intentionally going to play Genshin Impact for 1, 2, 3 hours, it would start pissing me off. Also, as I said earlier, there's the controller alternative, there's the lowering the graphics alternative, and there is the, I guess, dealing with it alternative, although it's not so nice to deal with it when you bought a $900 phone. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this just happens with Genshin Impact. Any other game, even demanding battle royale, open world type games, do pretty good on any high-end phone. It's just this game that for some reason it just cannot run properly without raising the temperature like crazy. I guess it's because it's meant to run on consoles and computers with active cooling. So with phones that don't have that active cooling, it just makes the device run very, very hot. But yeah, in every other way, pretty pleasant experience. I mean, as you can see, it runs great at high settings, 60 FPS. It doesn't drop any frames beyond one every 1-2 minutes, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal. It happens with every demanding game with a lot of elements in the world. It's very hard to make it so polished. It never drops a frame. But yeah, the only big deal, the temperature. But I'm pretty optimistic, I have to say, though. Like, I've been playing now for 2-3 minutes, and it feels like it's as warm as it was at medium. Let's do the test, though, to confirm. Please, Genshin Impact, don't disappoint me, okay? Oh my god, 30, 43. That's, like, okay, it's definitely going up, slightly going up by the minute, because as you probably are not noticing, but I'm not making a lot of cuts. I've been on Genshin Impact for probably 5-6 minutes, and it's gone from 40 to 43. So let's see what happens if we turn on the highest possible graphical preset, of course, at 60 FPS. Of course, it's going to say it's completely overclocked, but how does it feel though? Oh my God, it is not showing any lag or hiccups. It's very, very smooth. I'm confused. Like, why did it say it was overclocked at medium settings if it's able to properly run the game at ultra settings? I mean, I guess it's because of the heat. The reason it says the game is overclocked is not necessarily because of the graphical capacity, but because of the warmth the phone is going to achieve while playing. I don't know, but it feels pretty smooth. It feels great. And the temperature, okay, I feel like now is over the edge. It was on the fence before between being fine and uncomfortable. Now it's crossed that line, and it's starting to be a little bit uncomfortable in my hands. I mean, it's not unbearable, but I would definitely not want to play like this for 1 or 2 hours. This is fine for like a couple minutes, 30 minutes, but over that amount of time, I would say, yeah, maybe buy a controller or lower the settings because the heat is starting to get a little uncomfortable. That being said, though, it feels surprisingly well. It's kind of weird that the phone is so warm and it technically is not supposed to run like this, but at the same time, like the phone has enough power to run the game at this settings. I feel like that's the biggest deal with or issue with phones nowadays, is that they have the power to play top tier AAA games, but they warm up like crazy. So that's kind of the big challenge with phones. It's not that they're not powerful enough, is that they don't have the ability to sustain that performance load without becoming a hot pan, you know, where you can bake an egg. You could have probably, with the right amount of time, you could probably bake an egg on the S24 right now. It's achieving a temperature with which you could bake something in it, you know? So yeah, it is uncomfortable. Let's do the last temperature check. I hope it doesn't go over 45 degrees Celsius. Okay, damn near close then, okay. Damn near close. 44. I said I didn't want it to go over 45, and it's at 43, 44. So very, very close. Dangerously close. Okay, so I say that because theoretically, if you go over 45, which I will be showing the conversion to Fahrenheit here for those of you who live in the US, if you go over that temperature, it starts becoming dangerous for the processor or for the longevity and health of the processor over time. So you don't want to go over that temperature, never, ever. Moving on, of course, we also have to talk about the battery. We have the same battery we had last year, 4,000 milliamp hours. Of course, it is not interchangeable. You have to go to a store, open the phone up, and get charged money to change the battery on your phone. But that being said, and especially considering the size, the very compact size, I believe it is a very good battery. It gives us 25 watts fast charging when wired, which is good for 50% in under 30 minutes. At least that's what Samsung advertises. It gives us 15 watt wireless charging. And the most impressive feature on this phone is that it gives us 4.5 watt reverse wireless charge. So if we go to wireless power sharing here and we enable the feature, why are you not enabled? Oh, because it doesn't have enough battery. Well, I'm going to show you with the footage on the settings. If you enable the feature and you have enough battery life, because I think if you're under 30%, it doesn't let you turn it on. If you enable the feature, you can actually plug a different phone on the back of the S24 and charge that other phone. This is very convenient for when you have two phones or someone else has a phone that doesn't have any battery. You can give the other phone 5, 10, 15% battery without having to, go find a wall brick or whatever, go find a power source. If you're in the middle of a mountain and you don't have that as an option, this could definitely save the other person's life, maybe not life, but save the other person's phone. As I said earlier, my experience has been very good with the S24. It has a very small compact size and a relatively small battery with 4,000 milliamp hours. That's less than what we can see in a lot of other flagship phones. But even then, the performance it gives is very impressive. If you don't do anything super crazy, you're not going to have any issues reaching a full day of battery usage. In my case, I personally use this phone for 5, 6, 7 hours a day sometimes, and I've always reached bedtime with 15, 20% battery remaining at least. Of course, if you're cautious with the brightness, cautious with connections, and you take care of what you do with the phone, you can extend that over a day. And if you're a casual user that only uses the phone to send text messages and browse the web, you could definitely get 2 days of usage out of it. As you can see in the settings, we have a power saving mode, which if you enable it, of course, is going to lower the brightness and change a couple settings internally to help you get more battery life out of the phone. But what's very cool is that if you go to background usage limits, you can do a lot of customization when it comes to the multitasking of different apps attempting to save more battery life. So if you choose certain apps, those apps are not going to stay in the multitasking, or they will always stay in the multitasking because sometimes apps take a lot of power when they reboot. So if you enable an app to never get deleted off the background, maybe you save a little battery life doing that. Also very interesting, you have battery protection capabilities. If you click on the option, you have 3 modes: basic, adaptive, and maximum. Depending on the mode, you're gonna have more restrictions, but more battery protection. So if you reach maximum, of course, there's gonna be a lot of limitations, like the phone's never gonna charge past 80% and a bunch of other stuff, but you're going to, have a very healthy battery for a long time. If you choose basic, it's only gonna be a couple limitations, very small, you're probably not gonna notice, but you're only gonna get a little bit of protection. I feel like basic is probably the best sweet spot because you don't really want any compromises when you're using the phone, and you're not really going to take advantage of that extra little bit of care the phone gives to the battery when choosing maximum. So yeah, if you want battery protection because you want to use the phone for a long time, you don't want to change the battery, I would suggest using basic unless you're really worried and want to extend the usage as much as possible. When it comes to the software, we of course have the latest and greatest One UI 6.1 and Android 14, which is technically not the latest version of Android. We just had Android 15 launch and I think a couple Google Pixels in beta mode. But when it comes to official launch for every phone versions of Android, this is the latest and greatest. And I have to say, I'm really happy with the experience. One UI has gone a long way in terms of optimization, smoothness, and reliability when you're using it. I mean, I remember a couple years ago with the Samsung Galaxy S7, the S8, those phones worked good for the first couple weeks, but then they started to slow down and to stutter and to be very, very slow after a couple weeks, after a couple months, until they were basically mid-tier phones that costed me, a lot more when I first got them. So it is very nice that Samsung has worked on their launcher, on their operative system to make it fluid, to make it optimized, not only when the phone is new, but after a couple months. This phone works as good as it did when I first got it. I have installed a bunch of apps, music, videos. I've done pretty much anything you can do on the phone, and still it works perfectly fine. So if you were worried about this, maybe you're coming from another brand, maybe you're coming from Apple, and you're worried that your Samsung phone is not going to give you the best, most optimized experience, well, it is going to be the case. It is going to give you a very well optimized experience. And of course, because it is a new Samsung phone, we also have access to a bunch of AI features. The first one, and probably the most popular one, is Circle to Search. If we tap on the bottom of the phone, we can automatically just select anything we want with our finger, and the phone is going to do a smart search on the internet based on whatever we have circled. In this case, I've circled my dog. It is a border collie. It is going to tell me, interesting facts about the breed. It is going to show me photos. It is even going to show me interesting questions other people have asked. So it's going to do a smart search of multiple things into one page. If I choose to circle, for example, the Gmail icon, it is going to do, that was a very bad circle, but it detected it anyways. It is taking me to Google so I can log into Gmail. It, shows me relevant questions. It's probably going to show images of Gmail. So it is a very smart search, and it's a very fast search. You could technically do this before by, screen capturing something and sending it to Google Photos and doing the search, but it was a very slow, very tedious process. Now it is super fast and super intuitive. Also in the photos section, we can basically do a lot of AI editing on the photos. If we, for example, want to select dog, it is automatically going to, understand that this is a dog. So I'm just going to choose the dog. We can make them smaller. We can make them bigger. We can make them disappear. So if I just erase the dog, it's just going to create a new image. See, there's like weird gray lines here. The phone's not doing a really good job right now. But the cool thing about AI is that it improves over time. So maybe it's not doing the best of jobs right now, but in a couple months you can go back and it's going to do a better job. And then a year later, it's going to do a fantastic job because AI is learning every day. Another very cool feature is if you have a text on your notes, you can actually do a bunch of AI tweaks to that text. You can change the format of the text. As you can see, if you want to send it to your boss, you can format it in a more formal way. If you want to send it to a friend, you can make it more casual. You can also summarize it, as you can see. So imagine you have a 400-page document you want to, read, but you don't have time to read 400 pages. Well, you can actually summarize those 400 pages into one, so you can get all the relevant information in a lot less time. You can also correct the spelling, so if you made any mistakes, based also on the format or the type of document you want to write. And then, of course, you can translate it with AI, so it sounds more logical in the other language to any language you want. When it comes to connections, the phone is loaded up to the brims too. It has Wi-Fi 6E, which is a very fast Wi-Fi standard. I think nobody has Wi-Fi 6 routers right now, so you're not even going to take advantage of this feature for the next 4 to 5 years until those routers start showing up. You have Bluetooth 5.3, which is the fastest and most reliable Bluetooth version available. You have very, very fast 5G. You have NFC, which unlike with the iPhone is unlocked, so you can take advantage of pretty much every NFC accessory. And of course, on the settings, you have access to airplane mode, so you can disable all of these connections. You have access to your SIM manager, data use. You can choose to set up a hotspot for tethering if you want. Also, because you have a very fast standard of Bluetooth, you can set up Bluetooth tethering, so you can share your internet connection through Bluetooth. Very cool. And then you have more connection settings, which is basically going to give you the option to set up a VPN, which is very common nowadays. If you want to browse the web safely, you want to set up a VPN. So you can come here and set it up the way you want right on the settings. But anyways, that being said, let's move on to one of the most important components on the phone, the cameras. And I actually believe this is one of the deal breakers on the S24. This is a very impressive set of cameras for a phone under $1,000 because every other device in the same price range actually only comes with 2 cameras, a ultra-wide camera and a main camera. It is only the S20 something lineup, S22, S23, now S24, that come with a third 3x zoom lens on the device. This is something we can only see in pretty much every other brand on their flagship device, like on the iPhones. You have to pay a lot of money to get the triple camera layout on the iPhone. You have to go for the Pro model, but on the Samsung camp, you can just get the basic flagship device and get the 3 cameras. More specifically, we have an ultra wide camera with 12 megapixels, which is good for 12 megapixel photos and 4K video up to 60 FPS. We have a main camera with 50 megapixels, which is good for 12 and 50 megapixel photos, plus 4K and 8K video. And then we have a 3x 10 megapixel camera, which is theoretically good for 10 megapixel photos, but for some reason, Samsung allows you to take 12 megapixel photos with a 10 megapixel camera for some reason. I don't know if it's like an AI upscaling thing, but Samsung shows it. You're going to see it later on the camera as 12 megapixel photos, but theoretically, the camera only has 10 megapixels, just FYI. Oh, and of course, 4K video up to 60 FPS. Last but not least, we have a very tiny but very powerful selfie camera that's good for 12 megapixel photos and 4K video up to 60 FPS. Of course, it being a flagship phone, it can do stereo audio, it can do HDR, HDR10+, it can do double camera recording, which you'll see later, and it has all the camera processing unit AI technology possible right now to get the best results out of your images and videos. Now, that being said, let's take a quick look at the camera app. As you can see, it has a very simple layout with photo, video, and portrait mode. Then we have a bunch of other modes on the More tab, but let's begin with the photo capabilities. As you can see, we have a settings tab at the top with which we can change every possible setting for photos. So you can see we can choose between 12 megapixels and 50 megapixels. If we choose 50, we can only take photos with the main camera, which has 50 megapixels. If we choose 12, we can access all of the cameras. Then we can choose the aspect ratio. As you can see, it's set at 3/4, which is the standard photo aspect ratio, but we can also do 9:16, which is the aspect ratio of this video you're watching right now. We can do 1:1, which is the OG Instagram aspect ratio for old photos. And we can do full device photos, which is pretty weird because this doesn't really fit any social media. It doesn't really fit any format for digital media, traditional media. It makes absolutely no sense to take ultra wide photos. But I guess, you know, if you want to do it, it's there. You can do it technically. We also have a timer. We have a flash toggle for on and off flash. We have an active or live photo mode, which basically creates a small video with the previous frames before you took the photo and the after frames after you took the photo to create a small video instead of a photo to make the photo become more alive. I'm probably showing you an example of that so you can better see what it means. And then of course we have a filter tab. I have to say these are very professional filters. They are not like the doggy ears and cat nose type, you know, filters for kids. These are professional, like warmer tone, cooler tone, lighter, more contrasty, whatever it is. They are not like kids filters or fun filters. They are like more professional. You can even toggle the intensity of the filter so you can tweak it as much as you want. And then we have a face toggle right here with which we can edit our face to make it look more appealing. So we can change our eyes, we can change our jawline, we can change the tone of our skin, we can change the smoothness of the skin. So it's more like when you take a selfie or when you take a photo, you want to look better, you can tweak everything in the face settings. Then as you can see for video, it is more of the same thing. We have a resolution toggle, so we can choose between 4K, which is going to be accessed by all of the cameras, or 8K, which is only accessed by the main camera, which can do 8K. We have a aspect ratio toggle, so we can do 9:16, which is the basic aspect ratio for video. We can do 1:1, which is pretty weird. I feel like this was a thing back in the Vine days in 2013, 2014, but not so much anymore. And we can do full screen video, which is very useful because nowadays a lot of people, especially people trying to do more cinematic looking videos, are switching to this aspect ratio. So having it baked into the phone so you can just right away record video like this and edit it without having to do any post-production to change the aspect ratio is pretty convenient. Then we have an action mode, which is basically going to crop in a little bit on the image and make the stabilization on the phone a lot stronger. So even if you're running or doing anything with a lot of motion, the footage you take with the phone is not going to look shaky. It's going to look smooth and like if you were using a gimbal. It's like makes the footage you take look more professional, even if you're not good at stabilizing the device or if you can't stabilize the device. Last, on the main menu, we have the portrait mode for photo. Very interestingly, we can use it on the main camera and we can use it on the 3x camera, but for some reason we cannot access portrait photos with the ultra wide lens. I feel like that's because it's a smaller lens and it's a lot harder for the phone to create that fake background blur that it does on portrait mode. What's very interesting though is that on portrait mode, we can only take photos. If we want to take portrait videos, we have to access a separate menu and click on portrait video. I'm not really sure why we have to do this, why it's separated like this, but yeah, there's a special mode tab on the main menu with which we can access every other photo and video mode available on the phone. As you can see, we have Pro Photo and Pro Video tabs. So if we want to select the individual settings, like we have a little histogram here at the top to measure exposure, we can change the shutter speed, we can change the ISO, we can change the white balance. Every professional setting you can find on professional cameras, you have it for both photo and video. As you can see, we have Pro, Normal Pro, and Pro Video for both photo and video for free on the phone. Very convenient. On other phones, wink, wink, Apple, we have to sometimes spend a bunch of money on external third-party apps to have access to these features. Then we have night mode, which is going to force the night mode capabilities onto the phone. So if you're taking photos at night, most of the time the phone is able to recognize it's nighttime and activate night mode. But if the phone is not doing it and you want to make sure it does activate it, you can just click on the night mode and it's going to, every photo you take is going to be with night mode. Then you can have take a food photo, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. It's like a pre-baked filter to every photo you take. So food theoretically looks more appealing. I don't think it's worth it because then you have a baked in filter on the photo you took. So I much rather take a normal photo and then bake in a filter that I can always take out if I don't like it. I'm I don't really like the idea of baking in a filter, so strong filter on a photo and then not being able to go back. But anyways, if you want to take very appealing food photos and you like that filter, you can toggle it. You can do panoramic photos. As you can see here, it's been a feature for a long time. You can do slow motion. Very interestingly, you can do slow motion at 4K up to 120 FPS. Back in the day, for a long, long time, we could do full HD up to 240 FPS. That was the standard thing on pretty much every high-end phone. But Samsung this year, they chose to go one step further. 4K 120 FPS is a dream for every videographer. And I have to say, this has been a very exclusive feature on professional cameras for a while. Like, I have a very expensive professional camera recording this video, and it doesn't have 4K 120. It has 4K 60 uncropped, which is a dream for pro cameras. 4K 120 is amazing, and the fact that we can get that on a phone is insane. Then we have portrait video I showed you earlier. We have dual recording, very interesting feature. We can record the front-facing camera and the rear cameras at the same time. So if you're seeing something very interesting and you want to react at the same time you're looking at it, you can do so. I'm not really sure. Oh, yes, you can. You can move the selfie camera wherever you want on the phone. So if you can probably even make it smaller or bigger. No? Okay, you can only move it around. That's okay. Maybe for another year we can make it slightly bigger, slightly smaller. You can even do like a split screen for TikTok maybe. Very interesting feature. Very interesting. I'm not really sure if you can do two rear cameras at the same time, or if you can switch it up so the selfie camera is the bigger one and what you're showing is the small one. But very interesting feature nonetheless. We can also do single take, although I'm not really sure what single take is. It's more like a timer for photos. If I enable the single take thing, it's basically like a timer, but it shows a separate toggle than you get with the normal timer. So if anybody knows what a single take is, please tell me in the comments. And of course, because this is a beautiful Android phone, we have a quick toggle for the camera settings right on the app. Beautiful. Learn a thing or two about these phones, Apple. I'm not going to go through all these settings because most of them are the basic camera settings you probably have on your phone already, so there's not a lot of new stuff here. But I am going to make you make a small suggestion, and it's that you enable the grid line feature for photo and video. As you can see, I have like 9 different squares dividing the photo and video mode. This doesn't really show in the end result, but it actually helps you a lot with framing and creating a good frame for your photo and putting everything in its place and sort of creating a better looking image. So if you're into photography or you just want to take slightly better photos, I suggest you turn it on. As I said, it's not going to show in the end result. There's not going to be grid lines in your photos, but it does help you put things in there. Like if you want to take a photo of 2 people, you want them both in the frame, you can easily make people, like frame people, but I don't know how to explain it. I'm sorry, but it's going to make your photos and videos look better. Also, be careful with the watermark feature because I have it turned on. I'm going to actually turn it off right now. If you turn it on, there's going to be a watermark that says Galaxy S24 on every photo and video you take, which is something pretty sure you don't want. I'm pretty sure you don't want S24, S24, S24 on all of your vacation photos. So if this turns on by accident, or you see it in the camera, in the photos you take or videos you take, you don't know where it comes from, you can turn it off in the settings. I believe the S24 is the best bang for the buck in its price range. It is a high-end phone without being too expensive. It's under $1,000, but it brings a lot of functionality that's only available on plus $1,000 phones, like having 3 cameras on the back, having a 120 Hz display, the materials, the construction quality, the internal components. The only thing that pissed me off a little bit about it was that, as I said earlier, on certain regions like Europe and South America, you don't have access to the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 processor, while other people in other regions like the US and Canada do have access to that version. And that's pretty lame because we're all paying the same price, and having different versions based on region is, I feel like it's a little bit of a trap because you're advertising the phone as this thing, and then if you live in a different place, you get this other thing, although the marketing is the same. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but as you saw earlier, the phone is very fast, and it's not really that different in practical terms as opposed to the Snapdragon version. But yeah, it's kind of a shame. I'd much rather have the Snapdragon, so I beg Samsung to include Snapdragon in all their phones next year, well, at least on their high-end phones. But otherwise, as I said, this is the best bang for the buck in the high-end phone market. It is very, very good. So if you wanted to buy it, as I said earlier, you have a very good price on Amazon. I left a link in the description, and now that the video is about to end, I recommend you go take a look.